Good afternoon. I am Grady Stevenson, the Executive Director of the Community Relations Board for the City of Cleveland. On behalf of Mayor Frank G. Jackson, I welcome you to the City of Cleveland's virtual Black History Month program. Today is our 6th installment of a virtual Black History celebration, focusing on strengthening Black families through the quest for equity and equality. In the last year, our families have faced many challenges, from the lack of food, diminished health care, loss of jobs, and being in a general state of uncertainty. In many families, that is compounded when we have single-parent households. And unfortunately, that is usually a mother. As the theme says, we want to strengthen the family. And at its core, fathers are important to that unit. So I am pleased that we can offer a male perspective and demonstrate how right here in Cleveland and in Cuyahoga County, we are working to decrease the numbers of absentee fathers. Today, we will speak to a man behind the county's Fatherhood initiative and learn how we can ensure and strengthen our Black families by embracing and helping our fathers become the best dad they can. Now I welcome our Black History Month co-chair, Shelley Shockley, to the conversation. Shelley?
Thank you, Director. Welcome, Mr. Grimes. As the Director said, today we will be talking about your program, the Fatherhood Initiative. I will ask you a few questions, and then we will basically just have a conversation. To begin, I wanted to ask, as I looked over your resume, or your bio, I'm sorry, you have been with the county for a while, but you have also have experience with General Motors as a minority dealer development in the minority dealer development program. You are the proud father of 2 daughters who we see seated with you, a Spelman grad and an Emory grad. So you have some bright young ladies right there next to you. You are a graduate of Ohio Northern University with a BA in Business Administration. And you also completed the Business Development Program at Case Western Reserve Weatherhead School of Management. So you have a lot of experience behind you as it relates to corporate America. And looking over this, I see that you actually developed the initiative, the Fatherhood Initiative. Is that correct?
Yes, I developed the initiative along with the former county commissioner, Peter Lawson Jones.
Okay.
Yes, when I first came to the county, Peter was in the process of setting up the Fatherhood Initiative to duplicate the Ohio Commission on Fatherhood, which he had founded a couple of years earlier, and we wanted to bring that type of initiative to the county level. It's surprising because at that point in time, the Ohio Commission on Fatherhood had become defunct in terms of funding. So when we started our initiative back up, one of the things that we were able to do was to go back to Columbus and get that initiative up and running again. So that's kind of the genesis of how it happened. And then once Peter moved on, then, I just kept the ball rolling for the last 13, 14 years. And, you asked me about, about my background, a little bit about myself. One of the things that I think is related to what I do now is I'm the product of an amazing father. My father made sure he worked 2 jobs to make sure that me and my 3 brothers were educated and well-rounded. I graduated from Ohio Northern. One of my brothers graduated from Findlay College. The 3rd brother graduated from Eastern Michigan University, and my baby brother graduated from Yale. And this is from, a father, not a lot of means, but a lot of substance. So that's kind of like something that's behind me. And the other thing that's directly related to fatherhood is I'm the proud father of 2 daughters. And my daughters mean everything to me, and I love them unconditionally. But what I learned from my dad was the value of education. And fortunately, they both have undergraduate degrees and graduate degrees. So, things fall down, from how you raise until you raise your children. And in general, you said, well, how am I think I've been a blessed individual. I've had an opportunity to study in Europe. I've had an opportunity to work for major corporations. I've had an opportunity, to raise my children. And now I'm in a job that really means something to me at this point in my career.
Okay, so that's a good segue. So tell us a little more about what that really means to you. When you say you're in a job that means something to you, why is this different than positions you've held in the past?
Well, there are some differences, but then there are some similarities. The differences are when you're working for corporate America, the bottom line is profit and loss. But when you're working in something like the Fatherhood Initiative, the bottom line is the impact that you have on families and children. That's your bottom line. That's the goal at the end of the day. The similarities are that both of them have an impact on the community financially. A lot of people don't think that there's a financial impact to what we do. But when we are keeping families together, we're saving $50,000 of them being in the system. When we are talking to young men about staying in school and graduating from high school as opposed to dropping out, we are, financially impacting those folks. When our fathers go through boot camp for new dads, and then babies don't get impacted by second baby syndrome or infant mortality, we're saving the community money. And so I try to tell people, yes, we are doing the soft things like making sure families are staying together, but we have an immense return on investment as well. So those are kind of some of the differences and some of the similarities between corporate America and nonprofit government entities, if you will.
So you mentioned a figure of $50,000. So what exactly would that represent? Is that like for incarceration or for?
It could be a number of things. Yeah, incarceration, what it takes to incarcerate a person here is $25,000. But when you look at a family that gets entrenched in the system, and now they need all of the benefits, of welfare, when they need food stamps, when they need health care, when they need vision care that the taxpayers are paying, then that's an impact. Those are dollar impacts. But when we keep families together and families thrive and families, then don't have to get into the system, that's where the financial savings come along.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Now, as far as the program, I guess I would ask that you give those of us who are not real familiar with how the program operates, give us some background on what exactly happens when a father decides to become a part of the Fatherhood Initiative. Is it something that they choose? Is it something that is a court? Sometimes I know we have some diversion programs. Is it part of any of the court systems? How does this operate?
Well, you know what? It's interesting. It's a little bit of both. Our program, we serve fathers throughout the county, whether you've been in the criminal justice system or not. There's some people that have been in the criminal justice system and then they have to take classes because they're on probation. But the majority of fathers that come into our program, we serve about 6,000 fathers a year, come in on their own. They're either new fathers who want to go to our boot camp for new dads program because they're having a new child. They don't know anything about holding a child. They don't know anything about postpartum depression. They don't know anything about second baby syndrome. And then we have a program where we're encouraging fathers to get involved in the school life of their children called the Healthy Fathers Program, because we want fathers involved in children when they're at that elementary school level. We have a program where we have collaboration with the Children's Museum of Cleveland, where we have toddlers and infants and fathers wanting to be together. We have a prevention of premature fatherhood program for teens. So we don't want teens to become a dad until they're economically and emotionally ready. And then we have programs for adults, job training programs, parenting classes, help with custody and visitation, a variety of those type of programs. So we have programs that can meet fathers where they are in both their personal life and where their children are in their children's lives, from birth to teenagers to adults. So it's open to everybody in the community who wants to be a better dad or wants some assistance with being a new dad. So it's a variety of different programs, but it's open to everybody. Sometimes individuals think that the Fatherhood Initiative is just for, one segment of the population. Well, maybe that's for African Americans, or maybe that's just for Latinos, or whether that's just for suburban. Our programs support fathers throughout the county that just want to be better dads for whatever reason.
Would you say that you have a diverse population?
Yes, we do. It's interesting that, depending upon what programs are or what programs there are, for example, our Boot Camp for New Dads program that we have at Southwest Hospital in Strongsville. We have it at Hillcrest Hospital in Mayfield. We have a number of Caucasian dads that are in there. But then, when depending upon the economic level, but then sometimes if there's a job preparation and training program, there might be more not minorities going to the job training program. So, it mirrors society in terms of what the issues that individuals are. But most of the programs are diverse in terms of the dads that are going through the programs.
Okay. So when you are, we live in a world where you indicated the difference between corporate and nonprofit or governmental agencies, where your bottom line is different than it would be in corporate America. But with any agency, you still have to have indicators of success. You have to measure how well programs are doing in order to continue to receive funding. So what are your major indicators of success?
Once again, it varies on the programs, like the Boot Camp for New Dads. That's the number of dads that graduate from the program and when they're taking a test after the program. Did you learn about postpartum depression? Did you learn how to hold a baby safely? Are you now familiar with shaken baby syndrome? Do you know the ABCs of safe sleep? That would be one program, for example. And so you take our job training and placement programs, we're evaluating those based upon the number of people that enroll in the program, graduate from the program, and then get jobs. You take our Healthy Fathers program, which is at 3 K through 8 schools, and then you're measuring that based upon how many dads are coming to school, how many dads are volunteering to help the teachers, how many dads are coming to parent-teacher conferences. You look at our supervised visitation program through the Domestic Violence Center, and we're looking at families that A, come for their supervised visits with their children, and B, are taking advantage of the weekend exchange program. And that's something that probably a little known fact. What we have as a program is that if parents are divorced or never married, and there's some drama on the weekends when the non-custodial parent comes up to pick the child up, new boyfriends on courts now, and they're not seeing eye to eye, and there's always some drama. Well, we can eliminate that by going through our program, where the custodial parent drops the child off on Friday, and then the non-custodial picks the parent about a half hour later, and then they reverse the roles on Sunday. So, you avoid all that drama and some of the things that you read about, in the paper sometime. We're doing a custody exchange, something breaks out, somebody gets shot, and those kind of things. So, but when we talk about the program that we do, we think that, and these, I don't know if you can separate the importance between the two, but we fund programs to help fathers support their children emotionally and financially. And a lot of times people may think about it's all about the jobs, or it's all about, what you can buy for your children. But it's just important for fathers to be there emotionally for their children. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah, so emotionally for their children, and I tell dads all the time, you can bring home all the new Yeezys or the new Nikes or those type of tennis shoes in the world, right? But if the child is going through something at school and under peer pressure and being bullied, and they don't have anybody to talk to, there's going to be a disconnect, you know. But on the other hand, you can be high-fiving and playing PlayStation 5 all day long, but the child has to eat. So, you got somebody got to pay for the groceries, right?
Right.
So there has, in order to be, I think, the best parent, there's a balance that has to be there. Yes, you can be there financially and providing for their rent and utilities and stuff, but B, it's just equally as important, especially in today's environment, that you're there emotionally. There's that bond there that they know that if they can't go to anybody else, which they will in the event that they don't get it at home, right? But the best place to get that support is at home. So we want parents to meet both of those needs.
Now, I was reading, I'm not sure if it was in your bio or if it was somewhere else. Are there other fatherhood programs?
Yes.
And would they be an offshoot of your program, or how does that work?
There are fatherhood programs in other counties and around the country. Ours happens to be the largest fatherhood program in Ohio. And I have helped a number of other programs around the state get up and rolling because they've come to us and said, hey, Al, how do you secure funding? What's the type of program you are? How do you market your programs? Because, you can have the best program in the world, but if people don't know about it, what value is it? And that's why, you will hear, you hear in Cuyahoga County, a lot of people will hear my radio ads and see the billboards and things like that consistently. Because it's just like I tell people all the time, the most popular franchise in the world is probably McDonald's, right? But have you ever seen McDonald's stop advertising? Nope. They keep that message out there. And sometimes the message doesn't click in right away. But after hearing that message the third or fourth time, and this is real story, and it's good that we have a 24/7 hotline, because sometimes, somebody at 3:00 in the morning will probably wake up and say, one thing, I really need to be involved with my kids, because that mental weight starts getting on you. And you get a call and you say, hey, I'm having trouble with custody and visitation, or I'm having trouble finding a job. Or a mother might pick up the phone and say, hey, I want this guy out of my basement. So I need to find him a job so he can take care of his baby. So, things come along, they come along the way that they come along. That's life.
So you've mentioned a number of programs that you guys have. I guess my question would be, when you're looking at the demographics here in Cuyahoga County and what you're dealing with, what would you say is the I don't want to say popular, but the most I guess popular would be the word, program that you have? Where is the need the most?
And once again, it's interesting between perception and reality. A lot of times the perception is that, most of the issues are probably child support related or people looking for a job. But we find out, I think, that's moved to the top more than ever is custody and visitation. Those issues where, the non-custodial parent wants to spend time with their child and they have to navigate through the system, because in Ohio, if a child is born to unmarried parents, custody goes to the mom. So the dad has to take one more additional step to have his legal custody and visitation. So he has to go through juvenile court, establish a parenting plan, and then they work out, the two parents work out when the dad's going to have the child, when the mom's going to have the child, who's going to have them on what birthdays, do they both get access to the grades of the children? And all of that stuff is worked out through court. So, there's never any he say, she say about, no, you can't have the child this weekend, but you can have him next weekend, depending upon how good you are to me. That's not the way things are supposed to be. It's supposed to be that both parents, if they're actively engaged and want to be processed, have that opportunity to be there. And so if you ask me that if there's one thing more than others, and there's a variety of different issues we deal with, everywhere from the non-custodial or the custodial parent that's all of a sudden died. Now the non-custodial parent has to reverse roles. Now the non-custodial parent has to make sure that there's child care, make sure that there's medical care, make sure that, they get the child to school on time and those kind of things, where the roles have been reversed. And that's life. I mean, I can't tell you how many times we've had that situation arise. We've had a situation where custody and visitation where, the non-custodial parent, who in this particular case was the mom, had a child over Christmas vacation and decided to move to Hawaii. Dad was waiting for the mom to bring the child back, right after Christmas vacation. She didn't come back. And so now he's like, wow, where's my baby? Am I ever going to see my baby again? And we had, actually, fortunately, they went to Hawaii on an Army plane. We contacted the Army and said, hey, listen, you know what? You took the baby out of state illegally, and we were able to get the baby back. I just say that to say that, there's a variety of different issues that we deal with. But if you're asking for one that's been more preeminent than others, at this point in time, it's that custody and visitation and time with the non-custodial and the custodial parent. And one of the things we've done recently, which is interesting, we've set up a program called Parenting in Separate Households, so that parents know what is the most effective way to parent when a child is living in another house. How to be respective of the other parent. Make sure that things are consistent. When the child is, going to bed in one house at 9 o'clock, they don't get to stay until 2 o'clock in the other house. And don't question the child about what's going on in the other house. And just, how can you get along better or negotiate better and talk together as parents? Because at the end of the day, it's not about the parents, it's about the children and the impact that this has about the children. And that's what the Fatherhood Initiative is about. It's about making sure that both families are involved in raising their children.
So speaking of that, are there any metrics that you guys have taken, say, over the years that indicate that children involved in this program perform better, perform worse, or that it has actually helped them? Because in the end, it is all about the children.
Right. Yes, we do. Yes, we have. And we're looking at, what's happened over the course of the program and how it's impacted children educationally. When you look at our Boot Camp for New Dads program, we're looking at the percentage of children born in the county and how many fathers, in terms of that total, that 100% percentage, are going through our programs as opposed to other cities. And, for example, you have, I think, 18,000 children that were born in Cuyahoga County. In our county, we've had about 6% of those children that fathers have gone through our boot camp versus 2% in the state of New York and those kind of things. I'm just giving you those kind of metrics. And obviously, the job training and preparation programs, how much are dads, how many people are getting jobs, what is the average wage now versus what the average wage in the past? Are the average wages going up in those kind of metrics? So, we're always, sharpening the pencil and trying to find out best ways, because at the end of the day, and that's the difference between corporate America in, you know, the nonprofit world. In the nonprofit world, you have to make sure that you have funding. And, you know, in order to continue getting funding, you have to show that you are being successful, that the community is finding out about the program, that the community is using the program, and those kind of things. And that's how I evaluate all my programs, based upon some guidelines or some goals that we've established.
Okay, Director, you have a question?
I think you might be muted.
Yes, thank you. So you mentioned laws in Ohio being different than some other states. Do you think that it makes it more difficult for fathers to, I'm sure you've studied this all over the country and know a lot of different laws for different states, but do you think that it's more difficult for fathers who are not in a home with their children to parent because of some of the laws that are set up in Ohio?
Well, somewhat. I mean, somewhat. It's somewhat different. There can be different obstacles, but I think for the majority, like for the majority of the states, it's pretty much the same way. There are some states where, when the child is born, you know, there's equal parenting rights. But it may be a little bit more, maybe a little bit more difficult. But you know, at the same time, you know, I ask dads all the time, you know, how deep is your love? You know, is it worth that one additional step, you know, to establish that custody and visitation in order to, you know, make sure that you're actively involved in your child's life or not? You know, and the thing is, as fathers, when you're going to be a father, and you know that because we talked about your kids, there's going to be a lot of hurdles. Parenting is not easy. And sometimes the difference between being a good parent and not being a good parent, or an involved parent versus a non-involvement, is the amount of work that you're willing to put in. And, you know, and I say all the time, you know, you don't, some things that you realize when you get on later in life, you know, that you don't realize is going to be a benefit of being a dad, start coming true. You know, when your kids are coming to you for advice, you know, when I get an opportunity to spend time with my babies on my granddaughter's 16th birthday, and they actually want me there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Those things, Grady, those things you can't measure, but those things come from being actively involved. And one of the things that I tell dads all the time, and I did have a note, is that, you know, there are certain things you don't get to do over. When your child has their first play in the second grade and you miss it, you don't get that back. First baseball game, kid's excited, ready to go, puts on his gloves and his uniform, looks in the stands, looks for daddy. Daddy's not there. You missed it. You know what I mean? So parenthood is like that. As much as we think that, you know, we have enough time to make over for things, you'd be amazed how fast time goes. And you don't want to look around, you know, 20, 30 years later and say, wow, I wish I would have been there. At any point in time, it's beneficial to get involved. But the earlier you get involved, the better for the children.
Okay. Does that answer your question? You got another one?
Yeah, I got another one. So, so Al, I'm sure that a lot of these fathers glean from your experience of being a father and being involved, being there with your children. Do you find that the alumni from your program, do they come back to help other young fathers understand the role of being a father and how your program or how that program benefited them while they were learning to be a father at a young age?
Grady, that is one of the, when I say I ended up in a job that I really like and I get enjoyment, in corporate America, I couldn't get, and you know, our program started in 2004. I can't, and people, my family can tell me, a lot of times I can't walk down the street without somebody saying, "Hey, that's that guy from the Fatherhood Initiative." And when they're shaking their head, right? And when they come up to me and they say, "Al, man, I was trying to get involved in my child's life 10 years ago, and you made the difference." You know, now my daughter just graduated. I just had my barber the other day. My daughter just graduated from Hampton, man, and you made that happen. Or, you know, I came out of the criminal justice system and I didn't know I'm trying to get re-engaged in my family, right? And I went through your program. You gave me some advice, and that's what made that happen. So those things are some things that you couldn't get in corporate America, and that makes a world of difference. It does make a world of difference. So that's some of the stuff that I get back as a result of the work in this particular area.
So one more question, Shelly.
Mhm.
So, Al, I heard you talk about the relationship that you had with Peter Lawson Jones, and
Uh-huh.
now that he's hit the big screen and gone off and left us and everything,
Uh-huh.
I just want to know how many judges see this program as a benefit and really support you in what you're doing.
Yeah, that's another thing that about having a nonprofit. This is political. You have to get political support in order to keep programs funding. And, you know, I get calls all the time from Judge Allison Floyd. I'll get calls from various judges. Not only are they calling me about, this is what's interesting, not only are they calling me about individuals who've gone through their courts, but they have somebody in their family, you know what I mean, who said, "Hey, Al, you know, my grandson just, you know, he's just not involved. And I got a grandchild who deserves him being involved." And so, you know, the phone calls come from a lot of different folks all the time. And I guess the short answer is I've been fortunate to have the support of judges, and it comes from building the program and having confidence that if they send somebody to my program, that they are going to get the attention that they need. Now, at the end of the day, it's all about how bad do you want it? You know, are you really committed to being a good father? Because if you're coming to me just to get out of a hot seat for a moment and you're not really sincere, then it doesn't work. It doesn't work. Your motive in coming to my office or calling me on the phone, which I'm always available, has to be about the child. You know, I'm not calling you. Don't call me and say, "Hey, you know, I want custody because I want to cut down on my child support." Okay. Don't call me because, you know, my mama's on my back. Call me because you are sincerely interested in being involved in the job. Because, like I told you, you know, we have 6,000 folks we have a year. And it's hard enough serving the people who really want to be involved that, you know, the folks that don't want to be involved and are just trying to get out of a jam, you know, that sometimes may be stopping the time that we could be spending with the sincere people. But I say that all, but I say everybody's welcome. I saw one of the things in the chat room. Both my sons have been trying to get in the program for years. Pick up the phone and give me a call. And I said earlier, I get calls from moms all the time. And I tell moms, I can help your son, okay? And here's how he can contact me. But I really want to hear from him, okay? Eventually, he has to pick up the phone and say, "Al, where can I get into the program? What time do I need to be there?" And get the help themselves. And I hope that answers your question somewhat. I know it started out talking about the judges, and we went.
No. That's good. That's good. I do want to say one more thing. No question, Shelly. I just want to say this. That so you know, through the Department of Community Relations, we work with a lot of at-risk young people, majority males, and a lot of times I think, you know, it would serve them well to be in a program like yours. I'd like to know, can we refer young men to your program?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's one or two ways. You could call 211 because we have a fatherhood initiative line there, where then the person will vet the individual, find out what particular help they need, and send them directly to the program. Or you can call our office directly at 216 348 3967, and then we'll do an assessment of where they are and find out the direction that they need to go. And you talk about, and Shelley and I were talking about the benefits of the program. We know that research and statistics show that when fathers are involved in their children's life, they're less likely to go to jail. They're less likely to do drugs. They're less likely to drop out of school. They're less likely to commit suicide. All of the research tells us that when fathers are involved, children live a more positive and productive life. That's the bottom line.
Okay, so you mentioned calling 211.
Or you can either call 211,
Uh-huh.
the United Way line, or you can call our office at 216 348 3967.
Okay. Now, the other question that I had, Director did ask some good questions. What has been the impact of the pandemic on your programs? Have you had to go virtual? Have you had to suspend programming? And if you did, how does that work with the Fatherhood Initiative?
Fortunately, all of our programs that were operating in person, we've been able to transfer to remote, number one. And number two, since the pandemic began, our phones have been ringing off the hook. What happens is when there's a crisis that affects the community as a whole, or a health crisis, the people that are in need of services in general, that need doesn't go away. A lot of times that need amplifies. For example, we're talking about the custody and visitation, where there's regular custody and visitation, programs. Well, now the pandemic comes up and you're limited in terms of where you can go and who you can see and where you got masks and those kind of things. So maybe a non-custodial parent and a custodial parent are arguing about, is it safe over there or is it safe over here? We've seen the impact of unemployment that the coronavirus has had, and so you got more people looking for jobs now. A lot of times there's more fathers looking for jobs. We've seen the impact of the coronavirus on the minority community. So the minority community has been hit hard in terms of lack of jobs, lack of food. So what we do is we partner with other organizations like the food bank and those organizations to make sure that the families, whether it's an intact family or whether it's a single parent family, has the same services that they needed during non-pandemic times. But we've been fortunate enough to keep rolling, and none of our programs have had to shut down.
Okay, that's a good thing. Okay, so one of the things that we have also attempted to talk about when we're doing these conversations is to find out what we as a community can do to assist. We know that you have your program, but aside from programs, what can family, friends, and the community do to help dads be part of their children's lives?
Well, the first thing we can do, and I kind of alluded to this earlier, we know what it means for fathers to be involved in their lives, okay? If you have a brother, if you have a son, if you have a nephew, and you see that they're not as engaged, and we all have this, including my family, we have a variety of folks, and you see that they're not involved, have a talk with them. And say, hey, call Al. Al's got some programs for you. You really need to be in your child's life. So we can all do a better job of that. number one. Number two, in general, the public can support programs like this when you talk about funding, when you're getting involved in the community, like for us in terms of Cuyahoga County, and you're looking at, well, do you fund, I'm just using this a term, you fund the Fatherhood Initiative, or do you fund reentry, or do you build a new park? Maybe, you want to be involved in that conversation as to where funding has been. The third thing that I will say is that recognize the importance of both families being involved in the children's lives. We have a habit of using this term, it takes a village to raise a child. Okay? What happens when one of the parents, whether the paternal family side of the family, the father and his family, the family, or the mother and her family, is not involved in the child's life? You essentially cut the village in half. You know what I'm saying? So when you're looking at it from a holistic point of view. Would you, if let's just say, Shelley, you and your husband aren't seeing eye to eye. Okay, and you said, listen, I don't want anything to do with him anymore. Okay, but the fact of the matter is, would you rather have your child have 2 cousins? I'm serious, or 4 cousins? All right. 2 uncles or 6 uncles, all right? 2 grandparents or 4 grandparents. So it's not about you. It's not about you versus Mr. such and such. It's about the child, okay? And how unselfish am I going to be to make sure that the village is really as large as we pretend that we want it to be? So if we're serious about this stuff, we have to recognize the importance of not only the parents, but both the maternal side and the paternal side of the family being involved, so that it does, and you can't have too many eyes on children today. How many eyes do we want on the kids? How much support do we want to have the kids? At the end of the day, are we just talking that, or we walking the walk? Or are we living that? And I would throw that out for everybody to think about in general when you're talking about, what can we do to help? How can I be involved? And a lot of times the other thing is, know the rights. Even as a grandparent, know how important it is for a father to establish paternity. That's the legal dad. So that in the event that, two things go down, at some point in time, the child needs blood and that kind of stuff. That, then you've established that paternity where that's obvious, to get blood. Or, there's one question I tell people all the time, and I tell parents, I don't care if you've been boyfriend and girlfriend since the 1st grade. Okay. When you're not married and the child gets pregnant, make sure you take that paternity test, because that one 5 or 6 word sentence that nobody wants to hear 2 or 3 years down the road, when they think that the rose is off the bloom. And what's that question? What's that statement that people will make at that point in time? He ain't yours.
You're not the daddy.
You know what I'm saying? Why put yourself, now it happened, but why put yourself in that position? And from a grandmother's point of view, like I said, this is broader than just us. From a grandmother's point of view, you can run around all day and say, hey, I'm grandma, that's my grandson. But in the eyes of the court, if the paternity hasn't been established, that's not a legal link. And you don't want to have to face that when, say, something happens to the parents of the child. And then you're talking about, okay, who do we give the child to? And you say, well, I'm the grandma. But then they say, well, are you really the grandma? So, I mean, that's just some of the tidbits of information that we try to get up all the time to make sure, and knowledge is power. You don't know what you don't know. So we try to get that message out to the community in terms of, what you should know, when you're engaged in becoming a dad. And folks say to me, well, when should I really become involved in terms of parent? You should become engaged at the moment of conception. When you know that child is going to be yours, all right? are you going to be there to support the mother, the child during the first 9 months, before the baby's born? Because studies have shown the support that a mother gets during that point in time will have a direct impact on her ability to have a healthy baby. So, you got to start the process of being a good dad at that point in time.
Mhm.
So, that's just some of the type of advice that I would say that we need to give to our children from the beginning. I hope that was a long way around to answer your question, but I think that's some of the ways as a community that we can give up. And we know who's doing the right thing, and we know who's not doing the wrong thing, especially when it's somebody that's ours. We got a son that's not doing the right thing. We know,
Mhm.
and so we need to make those hard decisions, for the benefit, of the children.
Okay, that sounds good. So we are coming close to the end. I don't know if there's anyone else that has a question that they'd like to post in the chat. I believe that the best answer to the question that was posed already is what I have placed in the chat, which is to call either the United Way hotline or your offices directly.
Mhm.
But let me see something because I know the person, so I was asking questions offline and I've got a response. Let's see. Director, did you have anything else while I'm trying to ascertain this?
The first thing I want to say is thank you so much for having me on the program during Black History Month. And I want to congratulate all of the other people who received this honor. When I talk about the unintended benefits of doing the work that I do,
Mm-hmm.
when you're recognized by your community and by your peers for the work that you're doing in the community, that's immeasurable in terms, money can't buy that.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what, that's what makes it well worth the while of working the extra hours and going into work at different days and at different times and things of that nature. And even wanting to be on the program while I'm in Atlanta.
That's one of the pluses of the pandemic.
Yeah.
As we've all had our issues with the virtual world, when things like this take place, but you have previous plans, you don't have to deny the honor. You can be there because we're doing it virtually. So we're happy that you were able to be a part. And at this time, I'm going to pass it over to Director Stevenson, who is going to do a virtual presentation to you. And at a later date, we will definitely get you the plaque personally. You need to unmute yourself.
I got it. So Al, from a personal standpoint, I just want to say thank you. I've always looked up to you because of your program and what I know it takes to be a dad. One of the greatest honors I've ever had in my life was being a father. And seeing what you do with other young men to put them in position to enjoy the benefit of being a dad is awesome, man. I just want to tell you, I appreciate your gift that you bring to this world in being able to set young men up to be great dads and great fathers. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. I appreciate you. On behalf of the City of Cleveland's 2021 Black History Month Committee, strengthening Black families through the quest for equity and equality, would like to honor Al Grimes for your contribution to leadership and tenacity, February 2021. Congratulations and thank you very much, my friend.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
All right, so we are going to close out this program. Again, we thank you very much, Mr. Grimes, for being here. We have another program this afternoon at 2:00. That one will be live on the City of Cleveland Facebook page. So anyone who's listening, feel free to join in. We will have a panel discussion with area ministers talking about how we strengthen Black families and what the role of the church is in that. So that ought to be an interesting engagement. Director Stevenson will be moderating that program at 2:00. So we would love to have you guys if you have time, but I know you've got to catch a plane. They want to spend more, as all the time they can with you. So you can catch it on YouTube later on, because all of the programming is available on Cleveland TV 20's YouTube page under Black History Month. So be sure to check out the rest of the programming we have offered. Thursday, we actually have one of our former team members, Yvonne Pointer. The director will have a conversation with her on Thursday at noon. And we even have more programming next week. So if you check out the City of Cleveland Facebook page, a lot of these events are posted. I think we provided you with a schedule of events, Mr. Grimes.
We have it.
So be sure to share with your colleagues, your friends, and let them know that we are celebrating Black History Month all month in the City of Cleveland in a virtual environment, and we appreciate you taking the time to be with us.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Have a great day. Have a safe flight.
Thank you, Allen family. God bless you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.